Hey, hello, hello. Happy Friday. It's Tammy with Cheers to Creativity, and we're going to do our Flower Power cards. And whether you're doing them as note cards or inspiration cards, it doesn't really matter. I want you all to take a deep breath, and I want you all to know that no two are ever alike. I want you to know it's okay if yours don't look like mine. This is about having some fun and relaxing and doing some easy cards. I'm going to start off by showing you how I actually created I call them inspiration cards. Some people call them other things. And the reason I call them inspiration cards is sometimes I use them to put messages on the back, and I might slip those into a card, or I might just hand it to somebody at a grocery store, just kind of a fun little way. But I also have a stack of them on my desk, and I just pick one each day, and it just seems to be what I need. I don't know why, but how I made these this is just out of a pad of watercolor paper. Okay, boom, boom. And I folded it in half, increased it as well as I could. Hi guys, nice to see you. Let's see if I can see us on here. That'd be nice if I could. I can. Yeah, that way I can almost watch for comments. Hello, hello, hello. So I folded it, I'm just creasing it, and I'm going to crease it the other way. And I just tear mine because I like that look better than a cut edge. But there's nothing wrong with a cut edge either. If you have trouble tearing it, you can always take and use a paintbrush and some water and lay it down on those lines too. I just need a little, there you go. So I just tore it, and then I did them again. Is this right? Yeah, it is. I had to double check. I could have, these might be slightly different size, but it's okay too. I'm going to do some of these on the cards and some of them on the smaller cards and some of them on the bigger cards. So let's get a few of these done. But the nice thing about using the watercolor paper and making your own inspiration cards, that's what we're going to keep calling them, is, one sheet of paper, you're going to get 8 of them out of there. Yeah, so I'm having a little trouble. See, I'm having a little trouble and it's ripping. So this is what I meant. You can just take any brush. It doesn't matter what brush. Dip in some water. I'm going to lay it down on that seam. I'm going to lay it down on the seam on this side too. And that will just help me tear it a little more easily. Yeah, much easier. See? And fold it in half again. Now, if you want to cut them, it's fine. It's obviously quicker than the way I'm doing it, but like I said, I like the edges on this. So, couple things. I'm going to be showing you this. I said I did the majority of these with my pearlescent watercolors. You can do them with regular watercolors. I don't think I mentioned previously that you can thin down like the Dazzling Metallics too to get a similar look, but they're going to have more pigment in them than the watercolors do. So you really need to thin them down a lot in order to get the same amount of sheerness. Same amount of sheerness? Yeah. I think I said that right. Now I'm really questioning if it's right. So I've got these almost done, and then we're going to get started. Donna, I don't think I got you in the email, so I will forward it to you. I also, when I forwarded that email for a reminder, I did an extra sheet of doodles. I was just doodling one day, and I thought, well, why not throw those in there? So I often will have my sketchbook with me, and if I'm waiting for an appointment or whatever it might be, I will sometimes just doodle different ideas that I could use, whether it's a sketch for a project or just the fun little doodles. They're fine. So I don't want you to stress out at all about the drawing part. I'm not going to be putting any patterns on. I did give you things you could trace if you wanted to. And if you were going to put them on your paper, I would just suggest you put them on extremely lightly. You can use graphite paper. You could also just kind of freehand a little bit first with a pencil, if that's what you like to do. Okay, now we're going to get started with putting you down so you can see cards and materials. There you are. Let's come closer. Closer. Wrong way. There. Right about there. Okay. Here we go. I'm going to start with this one. First, I'm going to show you all of them. So this is one that is really kind of has the impression of like a dandelion. So there was a lot of other ways you could have done this, but I used, instead of dots on the top, well, we're going to put little hearts on the top. So again, same card, just same design, just a little different in because they're hand done. Okay. Here's the little, we're calling it a painted daisy. This is a good point to tell you another thing with these. If you are going to use them for cards that you want to put a message on the front, especially where you've done the coloring, or if you want to protect them a little bit, there's a couple different ways to do that. And one of them is with a varnish, and you can use anything you like. I happen to use Varathane polyacrylic, but please hear this. If you're going to cover them, you're going to want to do that before you do your inking. It's just much easier and there's less chance of any type of bleeding. That's with brush on varnish. Brush on varnish is the only thing I have sometimes had issues with pens bleeding, but not, it's very rare, but I just wouldn't want that to happen to you. This is another great product if you're looking to give them a bit of, like I said, just a little bit of protection. Now, I would not do this on greeting cards at all. There's really no reason for that. This comes in a matte. This is the semi-gloss, and it comes in a gloss as well. And it works really well over Posca pens also. Okay, so there's that one. And then we have the doodle that has a variety of flowers. I'm not even sure what kind of flower that was supposed to be. But I'm hoping you're seeing that there's just some different ways that we're going to be putting the color down too. This is putting it down more in blobs and then creating the flower around it and then just adding some little extra details. Similarly, this one has the color more concentrated in where it's going to be, and then your details are going to be added with your ink. I actually did this card when I did this on Tuesday. So they're not the same, but it's the same kind of idea of having some spindly tall flowers. So let's just set some of these aside. Put those differently. I have a method to my madness here. And I'm going to start with this one. And I think I'm actually going to do it on a smaller card. See that okay? Yeah, okay. So you have a choice of starting with ink or starting with your color. And again, it doesn't really matter. I kind of tend to do a little bit of both on this particular design. So that's what we're going to do. And the size of the brush you use, pen you use, remember they have their little numbers up here. I'm going to see if I can just show you super quick. Oh, this is, I always have paper. Here's paper. This is just a piece of regular copy paper. And I'm going to try to show you each of these lines. This is a 0, 0, 0, 5. And you have to try to have the same amount of pressure, of course, when you're doing this. And then let's see. Looking for all my pens. There we go. Then we go to a 0, 1. A 0, 3. A 0, 5. These are the pens that I have in the listed in the supplies. They are Pigma Micron pens. They're archival ink, meaning they're not going to fade on you, and they're deemed waterproof. But like I said, the only time I've had issue is when I've used brush on varnish. Now it says here, waterproof and fade proof fine lines. So that was the 5. I need one more. Where's my 8? Oh, I have 2 more actually. And they come in bigger sizes as well. Is this my 8? My 8. This would be a 1. And the 1 has a different tip. And I don't use it very often. I use it a little bit when I'm doing lettering. But not much for fine detail. So I'm going to bring this up. Like I said, it all depends on how hard you're pressing too, but you can get the idea that the 005 is smaller, finer than the 08. If I really wanted big, bold dots, I probably would use the 08. Can you do it all with 1? Absolutely. But it's always more fun with more than 1, right? So let's go ahead and maybe grab, I'm going to grab a 1. And I'm going to kind of use these as my example. Scooch this a little bit out of the way. Okay. So we've got one flower that's going to kind of come up this way, right? And I've got one that kind of came off this way. Okay. From there, it's like a dandelion that has lots of little lines that comes up, right? Not all in the same direction. And then some of them come off of those lines too. And I didn't even worry if they were all connected. This base, I'm just going to like fill it in with almost like a little cup here. I'm going to do the same thing on this one, just to give myself a little bit of an idea where I want to put my bits. So that's what I've gotten thus far, okay? Nothing very fancy. I'm going to use my pearlescent watercolors. Again, you can use it. I'm going to do the pearlescent ones on this one just to show you. I'll do one with regular watercolors, and I'll make sure I do one with acrylics too. Okay, so cake watercolors have to be activated. And one thing I do like to do, and I bet I didn't grab it. Oh, shoot. I like to mist them first. Hang on, I'm going to grab my spray bottle. Sorry about that, guys. I have a smaller spray bottle that I keep on my table usually, but it's not there. So again, just water in a bottle. Nothing fancy. Okay? And I'm just going to mist them. Bam. It just helps activate them a little bit. I still am going to need to use water to activate them. You're going to want to make sure you have a paper towel so you can dab your brush if you need to. I also put in there, not necessary, but sometimes, especially if you like to do these, I need to plug you guys in. My goodness. Good morning. I don't know if anyone caught my live last night on Essential Stencil, but that was a hot mess. I did save the project though, so I am going to go live sometime today and show you guys how I saved the project. All right, are you plugged in now? You're good. Okay, back to this. All right, pen, aqua pen, water pen. You unscrew it, you fill it with water, you put it back on, and then when you need water in your brush, you just squeeze it and the water comes from the tube into the tip. Again, not necessary. I do like to play with them when I'm traveling, especially if I'm on a plane. So if I need to activate it, I can squeeze a little water into this puddle. And then I'm going to tap it on my paper towel, which is going to remove the excess water, but still leave me with the color. And for this one, I'm just going to lay this little brush down this way and this way. Think of it as a V, but because it's watercolor, it's going to expand a bit, and it ends up looking like a little heart. So I might have a couple little green ones. And they don't have to be perfect. And then for the water brush one, you're just going to rub it on your paper towel to change the color if you need to go to a different color. Here's some pink ones. pick up also a couple little blue ones. And I might decide I needed a couple extras. I will make sure they're all attached to something when I'm done. You can go one color to the other. I'm just mixing up the colors here. You can see on this one, I kind of did more oranges to greens to purples to pinks. I'm just being a little more sporadic on this one. Pick up a little of the yellow. They don't have to be hearts. They could be just little circles. They could be little flowers. Let's see about maybe orange. And because I am doing random, what do I have here? I need to now look, so I've just got a couple spots left that if I want to make sure they're connected, what color could I use there that I'm not going to duplicate, since that's kind of my ploy here. That's got one. That's pretty good. I think we're going to add one more flower there though, okay? So those are not going to get outlined. And I'm done with my brush. I'm just going to, till my tip gets kind of clean. I added a couple extras, so I'm going to lay this back down. And I'm still going to use that same brush, it's not a brush, it's a pen. And I'm just going to make sure they're all connected to something. Boom. If I added any. And if you want, you can even have a couple that are like floating around. Let's do one this way too. Bloop. So I just kind of gave them a little cup of their own, and I'll come back and I'll add little hearts in there too. Oops, and I picked up my different brush, didn't I? That's not the brush I like. When I'm doing something with a finer point, I just make sure my brush has a little better point on it. So I'm just gonna grab a little pink here. And this guy's flying out, so we'll give him a little blue here. Super, super simple, but rather cute. So I'll set that one aside. So I just showed you that one. So here, let's grab another one. Let's do this one. This is what I'm going to call the Painted Daisy. And I'm going to do this one on a card just to do it a little bigger for you. These are just cardstock cards, but they also sell watercolor paper cards. You just want something that's at least 98 pounds. My watercolor is 140 pounds. If you have something thinner, this is a little slightly thinner. It just means you need to pay attention to how much water you're putting in. And you might need to, after it dries, put something heavy on it. Okay, so these two are similar. Again, not the same. And I am just going to freehand this. But again, if you wanted to trace this, you could trace it with tracing paper, and then you could use graphite paper underneath. Or you could trace it, and on the back side, you could rub pencil and just lightly go over the lines, okay? So on this guy, I don't know if you can tell, but I kind of spattered it afterwards. This one doesn't have much of anything. But this is one to show you that how we're gonna use the dots to help add some shading for our flowers. Oh, and Joanne's watercolors are gonna be there. Cool, cool, cool. So again, you can, if you want to, sketch it on first, or draw it on with a pencil first. Just a regular pencil, use light lines. You can use a watercolor pencil and those lines will disappear with water, but you gotta pay attention to, I wouldn't want to use a black watercolor pencil on this because I would be pulling in black into my colors. Okay, so, oh heck, I'm just gonna go for it. Again, I can use different size dots for different amounts of shading. I'm going to use a 3. And again, it doesn't matter that much which pen you're going to use. I'm going to start off with the idea that I need a center. So I'm just going to give myself a kind of a shaky center. And then I'm going to use this as an example, and I'm going to start drawing my petals. I'm going to draw this one up here first. It kind of arches up and comes like that, something like that. Here's my next one. No two are going to be alike. And if you can embrace that, you can embrace just about anything. This one's going to come like here. And I'm going to go ahead and think about my stem real quick. I think my stem's going to come up from about here and come down. And my other part of my stem. Again, shaky lines are great when you're doing these. Because now I'm going to come in here and I'm just going to pretend that there's a little petal back there. And I can come here. Now, I do see my stem. So when I go to paint this, I'm going to need to decide, is that stem on top or behind? And there's no right or wrong. Now, if you wanted to think about this type of a flower come Christmas time, this could be a poinsettia. Now, I've not done much with turns or anything in this card, but let's look where I did here. This one had on this petal here, there's a bit of a turn. So I could just pick this one up and I'm just going to give it a line. And when I start doing my painting, I'm going to think that this part is on top, so it's going to be lighter. Are there any other places I want to do? Let's do one right about here too. Okay. Now I got to think what I'm going to do here. I think my petal's going to go on top of my stem. So we might make this a turn instead, and that'll help us. Okay, so we're going to pick our colors. I think I'll do this one just to show you something different. When you're using pens, make sure you put your tops on. They do dry out. They can dry out pretty quickly, and they're not inexpensive, so you want to treat them with lots of respect. So I did do these in the shimmer, come on, Tammy. The pearlescent, and this was done with a light pink, and then I just picked up a deeper pink. The other way you can do that is you can use less pigment, so more water, and then use less water and more pigment to help get different shades. But most of the time you're going to have more than one shade to work with. So these are my regular watercolors. I'm just going to use a regular watercolor brush. And I think I'm going to do this one in some oranges, just something a little different. So again, I generally would have misted these. I didn't, but it's okay. I'm going to pick up this little bit of orange, and if I want to test the color, that's what I do over here. You can test it on a paper plate. That seems a little intense. So let's just add some water, see if we can make it less intense. Okay. So now I've got all this color in my brush. I'm going to tap it on here, and we're just going to see. It could probably be a little darker. Okay. I'm just going to first add in a first layer of this color, picking it up from here. And it's okay if some of them are a little darker, because we'll do it more than once. We'll be adding more than one layer of color. But you can see I've got lots of water in my brush. I'm picking a little more color, okay? And like there's that line that we're going to use for adding some detail. I can go over that, and it didn't make that pen bleed. Okay. It's a little darker. Don't worry if you go out of the lines. It just kind of adds to them. So you can see that I have a number of shades. I just need to start thinking about, okay, if we were a sunlight person, our sun would come in here, this would probably be my lighter parts of my flowers. So that's what we're going to kind of go with. So I'm going to pick up the same color, And I'm going to come and go underneath this turn and make that a little darker. Maybe just pull from there, pull it in a little bit. You can clean your brush and then just work with a clean brush if you need to soften a line. And I'm going to just continue on where I think things would be a little darker. I think this petal would definitely be show up as darker underneath the one in front of it. Shouldn't have done that. This is going to be underneath the turn. Ooh, way too much. Okay, so I put too much paint on, right? It's watercolor. So I just cleaned my brush. It's a clean, see there's nothing on it. And I can reactivate that. Still picking up, I'm gonna make it darker right by where it's gonna attach to its stem. Here's another little turn. Watercolors tend to be looser, but it doesn't mean you can't get some wonderful details with them too. So again, I've just added that color to my brush. I'm going to think about almost like idea of almost like a bit of a vein in my petal. Way too much color. Clean water. So we just soften those. Let's give this one a little bit of more color on this side. Definitely could use some color down here too. Now, it doesn't have to just be one color. Most flowers are not going to be just one color. So maybe this one's going to have a little bit of a redder tone in it here and there. And again, doesn't have to be everywhere. Just might be a little bit in the middle here. Oops, way dark. A little darker there. Maybe we'll pick up a little bit of almost a brownish color. I just play back and forth, and I just admit if I need to test it first, I pull it over here. So this is a little bit of a Before I do any more on this, I'm going to go ahead and think about what color I want to be in my center. And I think I do want that to be more on the brown side. It's kind of a reddish brown. And I'm just going to kind of tap this in here because I want there to be a little bit of texture. So when those dry, they'll probably dry just different little bits of different shades. This is the one I'm showing you that we're going to be using a lot of dotting and detailing to make it pop. Picked up a little bit of the yellow ochre in here. Definitely need to get this to be darker, don't we? So my browns aren't really making it for me. The whole thing darker. I'm going to see if I can find me. Oh, that's a dark green. That's not what I want. Well, we can make brown if we have some orange over here, and then what's that for my blue? A little blue. A little blue and orange together will get you a brown tone. That's better. So we want this to be pretty dark. So that's where color mixing comes in, really handy too. But I think we've achieved the idea. It's pretty dark. Let's just, we've got that one vein or stem that we can see. And then we're going to start adding a little more detail. Let me grab a green that I would like. Okay. I've got one petal up here that I've got to figure out. Go back and grab a little more orange. I might pick up a little yellow. Maybe that's it. Yeah, let's pick up a little yellow too. Add a little bit of yellow into where they're turning to help really show that that's lighter. And a little yellow up here. And a little yellow down here. This is kind of a boo-boo area, so I have to really see what I'm going to do with that. Now, I'm going to do this. You would normally blow dry this, and we would probably still have to hit it with a blow dryer, but let's just let it air dry a little bit and set it aside. I'll come back to it in just a moment or two, okay? In the meantime, let's do something totally different. This is one where you're just going to lay down color, and then you're going to create the petal shapes that make some sense. And while I tried to do them similarly, you can tell the colors are very different. And I don't know, maybe it was part of a sunflower, I don't know. But you can definitely add enough one particular color. These just end up being a little more almost like a fantasy flower. Let's do this one on a small card. Okay. And I'm going to try to do this one with a little more intention, but I'm going to lay my color down first. Okay. And how I'm going to do this one is going to be a little different. I'm going to make my background wet first. Any brush will do. Just grab this brush. So this is just clean water. Okay. But what that's going to do is, because it's wet, when I go to pick up, it doesn't matter if I'm using these colors or the other colors. These are out, so let's go ahead and do them. I'm just going to set my colors down like such, and I'm going to let them kind of blend. I am going to use the other colors for this one. I'm going to go back to a round brush. So I just had that kind of a, let's pick up this. So I'm going to get really soupy, okay? Lots of water. And I'm just going to like let it kind of move on its own. I can move it a little bit if I want to, but it's going to be much softer as it dries because I've made my background wet first, okay? They'll take longer to dry. Got a lot of, I want more yellows in here. Oops, there we go. See? And I can even let them bleed and create their own colors. You just have to play and have some fun. So if I'm thinking of the idea of possibly this could be part of a sunflower, I might want to think more in the oranges and the yellows, but it's always fun to have a pop of odd color pop in. So maybe we see a little pink pop here. And remember, you're going to create the flower shape. So I'm going to let this bleed, so to speak. I'm going to grab a little more orange up in here. And if there's any color that you don't like while it's still super wet, I've just blotted my brush and I'm just going to pick up a little bit of this extra color. And that's going to need to dry completely before we use our pen. So there I've done 2 of those that are going to have to dry but I wanted to do that so that they have an opportunity to dry, and then we can carry on. What time is it? Check our time. Okay, I'm going to go on to we're going to do this one. This is a bunch of little flowers. It can be any, again, you're going to create the flowers, but we just want the background colors. Or you can do it the opposite way. You can put the flowers on first and then just dab on the colors. So let's try doing that one that way. I'll grab a card to do this one. Grab a card. Grab a card, give me a card. Just make sure you check which way they're going to go. So I'm going to draw some flowers for you. We're going to use these as our examples up there. Or you've got yours. Let me, nah, this might be better if I move. One there. One there. All right. I'm going to grab a 5 because I'm a big card. And I'm going to start with what kind of looks a bit like a hydrangea in the back. And I'm going to start making little clusters. And the clusters don't have to be anything more than almost like a little blob. They can have little points if you want. They can be any, I'm not even trying to put them together. You can do them like in clumps of 4 to try to make a little section, but we're going to come back in and add our dots, which is going to create our centers. So there's really no way to mess this up. You just have to be willing to play a little bit. And how am I going to do this? No two are going to look alike. If I was making a full hydrangea, I would probably make it as a circle. This one is one that's kind of losing some of its petals, but we can make it more of a full hydrangea too. I think I'm going to stop there for right now. I say that, and then here I go, adding more. Okay, odd shaped. Okay. I'm going to think about coming to this point. Okay, and I've got to connect these somehow, right? So maybe we've got ones that can go off here. And shaky is really good. Shaky is actually better than really fine lines. And maybe I've got some that even go beyond. Just to get it more of the shape I wanted, and I can come back and fill in even more. And maybe just some of them are clusters that aren't as connected. Okay, so that's, oh, got this guy over here. I might have some extra lines because when hydrangeas start blowing, they kind of blow. So we're gonna again make sure it all connects in more of a center point. I'm not gonna put my stem in until I get all my other flowers in, because that way I'm not gonna fight my petals and my stems. Does that make sense? Okay. So with that being said, I'm gonna come down here and look at this daisy-ish thing. And I'm going to start that by drawing an oval, a less than perfect oval. And then your petals are just narrower at the oval, and then they have kind of jagged edges. So again, they are not a perfect shape. If you're more comfortable putting them on with a pencil, do so. I do like to start mine by doing my outer edges if there's a top, bottom, there's sides. So these are my sides. So I'm going to make my sides here first. And then just start filling them in. They can have space between them. They can be more exact. There's actually space there. Maybe I'll give myself an idea of how big I want these to go here. It's pretty sketchy, but they were pretty sketchy to begin with. I'm going to add some finer lines to these, but I'm going to just hold off until we get the basic color in. So we've got this funky thing, and that one was just an oval that I added lots of lines to. So I'm going to add this oval up here, and it almost is like it has a little bun on top of it. So I'm going to just make this a little bit of a circle. Its part where it goes to the stem is just a couple little, right now it looks a bit like a light bulb with a ball on top of it. And this one I am going to go ahead and lay in the idea of where its stem is going to be. Okay. And the last one we have here is, I don't know, I think this was the idea of kind of a poppy-ish flower. So we're going to start with almost a flat type triangle. And then we're going to add like a little bit of a petal that's going to come up in one side. And then we're going to possibly add another petal this way. And then we'll add a little bit of a top. Okay. Again, we're going to give it a little bit of a base. Let's go ahead and throw in a stem. Need to throw in the stem for these. I want my hydrangea to have a bit of a curve, so I'm going to start here and let it come here, and it's going to hit that flower, and I don't want it to go through it, so I'm just going to use that same line. And then I'm going to give it a little thicker one. Okay. Okay. So we've got our basic color, our basic shape on here, right? So let's give this one some colors. So I'm going to cap my pen. And here it is just blotches of color, like I've done it already. So I'm going to be a little more controlled, okay? I'm going to think of kind of a pinky, purpley hydrangea. I'm not going to stay in the lines. I'm not like going to color in the lines, but those are the colors I'm going to pick up for this little area, okay? Again, it can be very, very sketchy, but I'm just going to be a little more controlled, okay? Maybe break that up a little bit. We'll see a little bit of blue here too. Oops, blue. Yeah. Poppies are generally kind of an orangey reddish color. Well, there's all sorts of color poppies. I shouldn't say that. So I'm going to pick up this kind of orangey-ish color. And again, I'm not going to stay in the lines. I'm just going to kind of here give it an idea that this is basically the color I want in here. I'm just scribbling, guys. I'm going to add a little yellow here. The details will come with the pen on this guy. Let's go. Really, I don't know what color we want to go. Let's think of this as almost like something that hasn't quite opened up yet. So I'm going to pick up a couple greens and just lay them in here. And I can find a color that's a little more contrasting. Clean water, and I'm just going to let those smear together for the idea of that. Okay. So then your daisy, you know, we could leave the daisy just white and just have very little color. This is almost like a translucent white color. Maybe it picks up just a tint of a couple other colors. Let's keep it really, really pale. Oh, maybe a little color here and there. Just dabbing, and I'm going to make that center pop with really setting in the yellow. Maybe even picking up a little tiny bit of orange to Really, come on, orange, come on, go. It's not showing up. Let's use a different orange. Okay, so that's what we've got with that. We're going to add our detail, and guess what? It has to dry. So let's go back to our painted daisy. Okay. I can add more color, but I want to get my extra lines in here first and my dots. So I'm going to go to a smaller, probably a 1. Okay. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create just a couple of vein lines in a couple of the, that's what this will be. It'll be a vein, see? Okay, so those are my petal marks. Then I'm going to start adding some dots to help give it a little more definition. One of the first places I'm going to start is on those little vein lines. And it doesn't really matter if I do one side or the other, but I'm going to try to be consistent. And I'm just making little dots. Dotting makes you quiet. Okay, so I'm going to do all my little vein dots in here. There's 2 ways to work on this. Well, there's many, many ways. But what I'm doing right now is just adding the dots in on one thing. You can also work on one petal at a time. And you might have a couple extra ones, okay? So if I said I'm going to work one petal at a time, is there anything on this one that I might need to do? I'm going to make my dots that connect them more in my center and connecting. So I'm not too worried about right there. So let's leave that one alone. Let's come down to this next one, and we're going to do some dotting right underneath where we did that line to create our turn. And this is going to make it darker. And I might still need to come back and add a little deeper color, but it still gets me going. Here, this one is behind this one, so let's add some shading. That's what these little dots are doing. They're adding little bits of shading for you. And it's behind this one too. We need dots to help define that turn. And maybe we'll just add a couple on this edge to give it just a little idea of a little bit of a bit of shading. And here we have our turn again. Now I did this all in the same size dot, 1. I can go a little bigger, this is a 5, and add a few bigger dots, and the bigger dots are going to be a little darker, right? Oh, here's the other one we need to do. Help shade that. And these I'm just doing dots. I mean, now I've got the 5. I want to have it darker on this part of my center. So I am just dotting, and it's okay if I dot out of the lines too, because I'm just going to making sure that all my petals connect here. Sorry, hand in the way. And I'm going to dot a few even in the middle of this too, so it has a little bit of a shading up in here. Okay, it's coming to life. We did the outline of the stem. Let's just shade a little bit underneath this last petal, and then just give it a couple little quick little lines here and there just to give it a little more interest. Okay, So then if I look at that and say, well, I really think it needs a little more, I'm switching colors, it's okay. Maybe I want to really highlight those turns. Make sure I have a little more shading underneath them. And this is fun too, to be able to add, just so I'm adding a little bit of shimmer. And the unexpected color of maybe just a touch of pink here and there. It's not to change the colors, but just to, whenever you add another color, it just adds a little more interest to your painting in general. And there we have our painted daisy. Could almost be a coneflower, couldn't it? Okay, so I'll set those aside. Are we dry? We're not quite dry. Are we dry? We're dry. Okay, so this was our mixed flowers. Where did I put them? Where did I put our mixed flowers? Well, there's our mixed flowers. I don't know what I did with the card. So now we're going to add some extra, no, there. I'm losing my mind. Are we dry enough? I'm not really feeling that we're dry enough. Okay, we're not dry enough. We're setting them back. Sorry, guys. Let's do this real fast. Where are we at in time? Okay, we're going to get through these. We're going to do one each way. Let's do this one with putting down the ink first. So these flowers are kind of fun and funky. So we're just going to make them encapsulate the color, basically. And then we're going to come in and fill in the color. Again, you can use any size you want. These are a little more whimsical and fun. And I'm just going to, it doesn't matter if you follow these exactly. I'm going to start with this flower here. I'm going to give it a little dot for its center. And then I'm just going to make it this big, okay? And then in between there, I'm going to decide if I want these to be taller or shorter, variation of them, okay? That's one flower. And maybe on this one, I'm going to come back in and make almost like little teardrop leaves, okay? Now let's do one that's going to be a little shorter. Here's where it's going to end. And I'm going to make him go a little more wonky. But that's about as big as he's going to get. Now, let's go ahead and make one above him. So here's where it's going to start. And these lines don't have to be just arched. They can be wiggly and wobbly. You're just going to create the basic shape. Now let's pull this, give it a stem. And it's going to stop here and re-emerge there. And I'm going to give this one a couple little leaves as well. We're going to have one that's going to pop about here. Need to give it a stem. I'm going to stop. I'm going to stop. And I'm going to stop right there for a moment. This was a 5, so I'm actually going to go and find my 8. Sure I am. There. And I'm just going to come back where I did my stems, and I'm just going to make them a little heavier. Maybe not on all of them, but that one's going to be a little heavier. This guy's going to be a little heavier. And I think this one's going to be a little heavier too. Boom, 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 boom. Okay. I'm also going to add kind of just this little funky, maybe it hasn't budded yet. We don't know. It's just an extra little something. That's with the heavier one. I'm going to do it over here too a little bit. It's okay to go off the edge of your paper. And then with a finer one, like here's my one, I'm going to pull the idea of a bit of grass in between. Boop, boop. Okay. Use the smaller one, and I'm going to add some little details. This is like dot, line, dot, dot, line, dot. So like a plus, and then in between the plus, I'm going to do lines too. So you could think of that almost like a little snowflake. Do a couple of those, and maybe some of them are just divided in thirds instead of as many. It's kind of like a snowflake. No two are ever going to be alike, but these are going to be pretty similar. Okay. And then maybe we've got some weird things that are flying off of these flowers. So there's our flowers. Where you can go ahead and add, I wanted to add a couple leaves to this one too. So this one I'm actually going to use a little more control. Keep leaving my brush and water, not good. So I'm going to pick up some yellow first. Okay, here's my yellow. And I'm going to do a couple of my leaves in yellow. Tap it here first. And this one I'm trying to kind of almost stay in the lines a little bit. Don't always have to, but for this one I'm going to. Okay. Then I'm going to go grab a good green. Doesn't matter which one. And I'm going to fill in a couple leaves with green. Okay. Then I'm going to start playing with my flowers. And my flowers can be any color I want. But I'm going to use the same color, and I'm going to try to either use a different color on the bottom or just keep adding more paint with less water so it gets to be darker. So let's do one with, do this one in this kind of reddishy color. So I'm going to put quite a bit of water in it to begin with, and I'm just going to like lay it down. And it's kind of keep it within the area, okay? Then I'll just let that one dry and see how much darker I want it. Maybe I'll make this one yellow. Okay. Just making them different colors and make this one this blue. And one purple. Make them all different colors. I'm not thrilled with that purple. Let's see if this is better. There we go. That's a little better. I'm going to go back, clean my brush to the color we used here, and I'm not going to use much water at all. I'm going to use mostly pigment, and I'm just from the base going to pull a little bit of that darker color, okay? So that's using same color, same color. On my yellow one, I'm going to dip into a little orange, and from the base, I'm going to pull up a little orange, so I have a little different color. I think on that purple one, try to get lots of pigment. Tap it off. Again, I'm going to pull so it's darker in the bottom. And that funky green one up there, I only have 4 flowers. That's 1, 2, 3. I'm going to have to add one more. It's gonna drive me nuts. I'm going to go with a darker green. And I said it's going to drive me nuts, so I'm going to do a blue flower right about here, okay? And I'm going to put it in first, and I'll know I'll have to come back. Flowers should be odd numbers, I think. Okay, so we've got the beginning of ours. We'll come back and finish that one up, okay? So we've gotten this one done. And we've gotten, oops, this one done. No, this one needs details. No. This has finally dried. And that is this guy. So this is very, very free-flowing. I'm going to use a stronger or a bigger marker, and I'm going to make this kind of like that cup at the bottom. And I'm going to give it a really wiggly stem. I'm going to make this kind of the base, and this one's just going to fall off this way, okay? Like it's on the ground. Now I'm going to just do circles, scribble circles, to create the bottom of this piece. And I'm going to switch to a smaller pen. You wouldn't have to, but I think I'm going to. Go three. And I'm going to give myself an idea of where this flower might be. Maybe there's some petals that are starting to like fly away. Please note, I'm not just staying within the colored area. And then from there, I'm going to add some veins. And I'm very sketchy. Same down here. First, I kind of decided about where that flower is. And pulls these little lines that come from my bottom, and that kind of helps. So we got that one accomplished. We are at just at an hour. We're almost finished. I've just got one more to show you completely, but this is the details that we want to add on our multiple ones. And I'm going to start over here with this little poppy guy. And I gave this one some funky little things flying out of the center of it. And then I shaded it with some dots. So I want it to look like, now this one, the middle petal is going to be in front, so I'm going to shade it on each side with a couple little dots next to it. And I'm also going to shade in here, because this would be that back petal. And maybe add just a couple wispy little vein lines. As far as my stem, I didn't really do much in my stem, did I? So we're just going to give it a couple little marks. Okay? Pretty simple. Daisy, or whatever, spittle flower. First thing, I'm going to dot around the circle, or the oval. And then I'm just going to be very sketchy, loosey-goosey, and add a few little petal lines, very loosey-goosey. And one way to be even a little more loosey-goosey is to hold your pen more on the end than like we normally do like a pencil. Okay. We did not give this guy a stem, so let's do that. Let's pull this down from here. I'm going to tap in here because it's going to shade the stem. And the other thing we didn't do on any of these is I'm going to give this one, I'm going to give it a sketchy leaf. Okay, we'll come back and add some color. But I'm just going to lightly tap in the idea of some veins. Okay. Okay. This one, I'm going to start in the middle, and I'm going to just make it just ever so curved on each side, and then I'm going to pull lines out until I get to the end. In the top part, I'm making another little circle and 2 little dots in there. Our hydrangea type things, all we really need to do is add little dots that will kind of start connecting some of these so they look a little bit more like clusters of flowers, because that's really what hydrangeas are. They're little clusters of these little 4 and 5 petal flowers. Okay. Again, I didn't worry about grasses or anything like that on these, just kept them rather simple. Okay, so we've got that one, that one, that one. What are we missing? We are missing this guy. We're missing this guy. Oh, and I want to show you one more thing. I'm going to go back to, what am I going to go back to? I'm going to go back to this guy. So this one, something you can do on your background, and you can do it before or you can do it after. I'm going to use a couple, probably shades of blue. This one. And I'm going to make it pretty wet, okay? And then I'm just going to hold my brush and I'm just going to tap it. You can tap it this way. The more water you have, the lighter your drops will be. I'm going to go with very light pink. Okay. Just a way to add another something to your cards. Okay. We have this guy. I have one more card. Oh, there's 2 cards here. So this one, again, can be done either way. You can do your detailing first, or you can do your blobs of color first. It'll be a little quicker to do the ink first. So let's do that. Again, you pick your size, and maybe in this one, let's do them all different sizes. Okay. So I have a 3, a 5, I even have a 2. Look at that. 8. 1. Okay. I'm going to start with this guy. I'm doing the 1. I'm going to start, and I'm just going to make this swirly shape. And I might off of here swirl again. And my stems are going to be really, really, really wonky. Okay. That was off of a 1. Next one is going to be a 3. And I'm going to make these appear, my 3s. So this one, these were like almost little ovals that I added something to. This one was a little oval, and then I just let it kind of spiral up. And this one was a little more of an oval. We made that one more of a teardrop this time. Okay, and we'll just swirl that one. I'm going to give each of these a circle for their bases. They're all going to come from this point, and they're going to come down, and I'm going to stop until I get the rest of my flowers in. Okay. I'm going to grab my 5, and I'm going to create this one. So let's make it kind of a circly thing. And then we'll come up here and make almost like a backwards S and let it be a little loopy. And we'll add it a couple little lines. and bring it down and give it a couple leaf shapes. And now that we've got him done, we can see where and maybe this one's going to have this wonky leaf that's going to come off of nowhere. Why not? All right, let's go to our 8 and create I'm going to create almost a pointy and a pointy and a pointy, and I'm going to partition one of these off, give them some dots. The base here, give him a little curlicue, bring him to a point and let him have his little bit of wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. And we have one more to do, and I think I'll do that one with the 8 too. I'm not sure what this one was supposed to be. Let's almost make it look a little more hardish. A little curlicue. We'll have a little leaf hanging off of it. On the leaves, they might have a vein or they might split. 1, 2, 3. They might have some shading dots. I'm adding all my details for these before I add the color. So I just need to come back and look and see if I need any other place that I want to see some detail, or if I want to make sure they're all connected. I'm just going back over this one. I think this was a different size, but it's just making it bigger. I'm going to add little dots here and there. This one, I'm going to make this fits. Okay. And I just kind of feel like we need a leaf or something that comes off of this one too. Okay, so we've got all our inking there. This one, again, we could use any colors we wanted. These are open. We're just going to go with them. And I'm just going to pick my colors, tap them on here, and I'm just going to fill them in basically in their shape, but it's okay if I go out of the lines. I hope this has been fun for you guys to just kind of relax. Hopefully you can just doodle away. I'll leave part of that one white. It doesn't always have to be serious art. Sometimes it can just be fun. And I would definitely call this just fun. Just a little purple. Find an orange or a peach for this guy. Clean my brush out and go and find my yellow. Maybe find a little green and fill in some of my leaves or all of my leaves. Maybe the ones I didn't fill in that green, I can fill in a different color. I'm going to use this darker green, and even though there's no lines, I'm going to pull in some grasses. And this one, what I did was I picked colors, and we'll find it nice and soupy, right? Nice and soupy. And to the point that I went back in the water and I just let it drip. Come on, drip. Come on, drip. Come on, drip. Everyone didn't want to drip too much. Okay, lots of water. And before you even go back, dip back in your water and it should drip there. Nice drip. Okay, and just do it with any of the colors that you like. Come on, drip. It dripped, but the wrong place. Come on, drip. Well, that one we got a small dot of. Come on. I wanted these just to be these soft dots. And when they dry, they try really kind of a fun shimmer on them. Come on. We'll help this one out. Good. Very different. Okay, guys, that is going to, oh, we missed one. We missed one. This guy. And this is the one that I did do on Tuesday tips. But this is just the idea of giving you just your background color and letting it dry and then coming in and doodling with any of the colors that you like. Okay. So we did a few. We did our dot round flowers. We did our mixed flowers. For lack of better words, we're going to call this our sunflowery flower. These remind me of the Lorax. And then we did the hearts on our dandelion type flower. Okay. I hope you enjoyed that. Let me scoot back so I'm not in front of you. There you go. There you go. So, oh, and I missed one. We did our painted daisy too. All different. They never are going to look alike, but now I've got greeting cards for the rest of the year. Okay, I hope you enjoyed that. It is Friday. It is 11:18, and I think it's time to go sit in the sun for a little bit, and then we have date night. Oh, date night. Have a great weekend. Talk to you soon. Bye. Cheers.